I always see bullying and harassment as a bit of an arch enemy of diversity. And I'm just wondering if there's any more commonalities or just some stories that you can tell around how you've maybe addressed anti-bullying and harassment as more than just a compliance requirement.
In construction, it's a big issue.
Yeah.
It's an overt issue, and it's underground on our projects as well. And we've had, and it's not about highlighting the cases of those, but it's about how we deal with it. And it's about how myself as a leader come out and be very, very clear about what's acceptable and what's unacceptable on construction sites. And that takes a bit of shifting, but it requires a lot of mandating. It requires making sure. A long time ago, we tore down silly posters and silly magazines that were on construction sites, and we thought, well, that was dealing with an issue, wasn't it? Then it goes underground. Then it becomes in graffiti. It becomes, discrimination becomes felt by people in not only the workplace but back in the lunch shed. So we've had to address it in every part of a construction site. And basically be clear in our site inductions, anybody who comes onto our site, this is what's acceptable, this is what's unacceptable. We have policemen, basically, people who act as policemen in the case of it, but I want to get to a point where people feel, again, in terms of an inclusive environment, that they've got the ability to speak up and say, listen, I just feel like I was just threatened there, or bullied, or harassed, or discriminated against, or I just don't feel comfortable with what I saw. I know that that's not acceptable here. I can raise my hand. When I feel that I can have everybody, got like 80,000 workers, subcontract workers out there on our sites, if everybody can put their hand up and say, I beyond any repercussion, I feel like I can raise an issue, I'll feel happy.
Thanks, Dale. And Fiona, did you have some examples there?
Yes, I was going to talk to the second part of that was around abuse. And I'll just give you the context. So last year there was a Royal Commission into institutional child sexual abuse, and there were a number of sporting associations that were involved in that because coaches can be in a very can create athletes to be in a very vulnerable situation and might take advantage of that. And some of those sports were our Olympic sports, so it was an opportunity really for many of for us as an organisation to really step back and go, well, that's our sports problem. It's for them to deal with, and many people would understand if that was our position on it. And had been the case for many of these politically incorrect or delicate topics in the past. And as a leader with an opportunity to be courageous, faced with that opportunity, I said, no, we're not going to dodge this. Let's use this as an opportunity to actually uplift and uphold the standards that we accept in sport. If we are not going to tolerate anyone who is inappropriate with children on our Olympic teams, then that's a zero tolerance policy, and we ought to be advocating that and using that as the platform by which our sports can then introduce their bylaws to support it. So we did in Rio introduce new measures around background checks on individuals, increased mandatory reporting requirements, training of all of the personnel around certain areas to ensure that if there is an athlete that systemically has been abused by a coach or someone in a power of authority, that will get intervened at an Olympic Games, and that there is a way in which that person will be found out prior to them getting to a Games. So easily we could have said this is dirty and this is not popular and this is difficult, too hard, we'll do nothing. But it's actually an opportunity where you can stand up as an organisation and say, we're better than this and here's what we tolerate. So use your leadership position as an opportunity to uplift standards rather than duck it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think we're seeing less sweep it under the carpet, stuff going on in organisations today? More people are dealing with the issue? Is that a general sense?
I've got to say, I can't recall an incident in my business over the last 10 years, but one thing we do is we reinforce on an ongoing basis what is the standard of professional practice. I think the key thing in any organisation is you need to actually call it out. We have zero tolerance for this, and this is the consequences. And I think, and also training, not in a really heavy-handed way, but say this is the standard that we work under. But I'm very proud to say that I can't recall an incident where I had to get involved. And I guess for me, if it was happening, you'd see it through the morale at work. And based on the results that I've got, it gave me the best results in terms of best in class. And as well as people would leave. And I hadn't seen that as well. So for me, the key message there is the standards need to be reinforced on an ongoing basis. And if you see it, you've got to call it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are seeing more calling it out.
Yeah, look, I think just building on that comment, and also the point about leadership and leveraging leadership, to me, one of the things that I just think is grossly undercooked in most organisations is the notion that the managers of people should be good at it, like doing it, or they should get the hell out of it. And that the way you manage the experience of your people is through the management layers, and being a good leader of people or good manager of people should be the number one priority of that person. And if they're not, as I said, if they're not performing well in that, help them, but eventually put them back into a professional role, but don't tolerate great techs, great salespeople, great anything, becoming managers of people to give them a pay rise. Because if it's just to give them a pay rise and they're not good managers, then you break down the fabric of leadership in the organisation. Because as a people manager, you've got to truly care about your people and care about issues of bullying and harassment. And when you've got a management community like that, then as a leader, you can have confidence that your beliefs and your principles are going to flow through the organisation. Because I think your weakest link is the management chain when it's weak.
I was just going to add a different perspective. Anecdotally, I have some stories, you can read it in here, that I have experienced, but also, stories that others have told me that they've experienced of bullying in the workplace. And the thing is, what I think we just need to be more conscious of is some of the things that are actually coming to your attention could possibly be, just a percentage of what's actually happening, because there are incidents that are happening that people don't feel comfortable to express. And I think it's really, really important that we're conscious of that, and almost that, being an inclusive leader means almost making sure that you're reading between the lines as well. It's not just what people are courageous enough to tell you. As a, coming through the ranks as a young lawyer, there were several experiences that I've had, but, truth be told, I did not have the courage to come forward and say anything because at the time, from my perspective, many, many years ago, of course, it was like, well, the fact that they've given me a job is good enough, they're tolerating me, so why should I, explain that this person treated me like this or this person made this remark. So you've just got to be conscious of that, and that certain segments of your workforce are more likely to experience that. But if you foster an environment where people really can bring their entire selves to work, then that will reduce, hopefully, that happening.
Yeah, I think that's a great point around the consciousness.